information, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
India's IT capital is always buzz. It's literally a city that never sleeps. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge.
You are watching the world 24/7 on the NDTV network. I'm Rameshwar. Let's begin with the top stories you need to know. In their first formal bilateral meeting in 5 years, Prime Minister Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping have welcomed the agreement for a resolution of the military standoff at the line of actual control announced earlier this week. As officials said, they have now set the process in motion for bringing India-China relations back to a normal path. Member countries of BRICS, that's Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, have called for reforms in international institutions, pushing for a just and democratic global order. During the 16th annual BRICS summit held in Kazan, Russia, the group also advocated for trade in local currencies, reaffirmed the UN's central role in the international order, and criticized Israel for its actions in Gaza, Lebanon, and Iran. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz will pay a 3-day visit to India beginning today to hold wide-ranging talks with Prime Minister Modi with a focus on boosting bilateral strategic ties, including in the areas of defense, trade, and clean energy. Protests have once again erupted in Bangladesh this week. Several hundred protesters attempted to storm the presidential palace, but the army blocked their way with barricades. Turkey hit Kurdistan Workers' Party targets in northern Iraq and Syria hours after a terror attack at the headquarters of the Turkish aerospace industry. 3 people were killed and 14 others were wounded in Turkey after terrorists attacked the Turkish aerospace industry's facility. And the Canadian Prime Minister is in deep soup, it seems. Reports state that some Liberal MPs have issued a deadline to Justin Trudeau. MPs tell Mr. Trudeau, make up your mind to stay or go. Well, our big focus, Chinese leader Xi Jinping and our Prime Minister held their first formal talk since 2019, a sign of thawing relations after years of acrimony. Both said they should address their differences peacefully. In fact, Prime Minister Modi and Xi Jinping met on the sidelines of the 16th BRICS summit that was held in Russia, marking their first formal meeting in 5 years. The two nations have now exchanged maps detailing their respective perceptions of the boundary in the central sector, which includes Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. In fact, a boundary in Sikkim is largely agreed upon, but China has yet to engage on boundaries in Arunachal Pradesh and Ladakh. But the key developments include patrolling arrangement for troops along the line of actual control, disengagement from remaining friction points, whether it's in eastern Ladakh, and the revival of bilateral relations through dialogue mechanisms. In fact, the Ministry of External Affairs has said that they welcomed the recent agreement for complete disengagement and resolution of issues that arose in 2020 in the India-China border areas. For further clarity, we have with us Strategic Affairs expert Pramod Chelani joining us. Thank you so much, sir, as always, for making time for us. Now, interestingly, sir, the Indian press release mentions the agreement for complete disengagement and resolution of issues that arose in 2020 in the India-China border areas. But echoing the Chinese Foreign Ministry, the Chinese spokesperson has noted simply that the two leaders commended the important progress the two sides had recently made through the intensive communication on resolving the relevant issues in the border areas. The same talking points had been also posted by the Chinese ambassador, but neither of the Chinese officials have used the term agreement, which has been used specifically by India. So what does this indicate, and how do you see this latest development?
No, you're right. The Chinese have been cryptic. In fact, India unilaterally announced this quote unquote new petroleum arrangement with China. The Chinese took more than a day to comment on the Indian announcement, and their terse comment did not mention any new petroleum arrangement with India. In fact, they refrained from talking about the military standoff between the two countries. They refrained from mentioning the border crisis. They only talk in very general terms. And I think even last evening, when the two leaders met, Modi mentioned the understanding with China in his opening statement, but Xi Jinping made no mention of that. So I think all that indicates that the perceptions of the two, despite the so-called understanding have been reached, the perceptions remain quite different.
So many experts highlight that it is important not to confuse the disengagement at the LAC for a resolution. But in a broader sense, some argue that this also opens up diplomatic space for Delhi as it seeks to find a balance between Russia and the West. And with the US presidential election less than a fortnight away, would you argue that this also gives Delhi more cards to play with as it deals with the next White House occupant?
A potential thaw with China will increase India's international leverage, given how the US, in particular, has worked against India's regional interests, whether in Bangladesh, Myanmar, Pakistan. We have seen the US, far from working with India, working against India's regional interests. And I think the way the US policy pushed Russia closer to China, now US policy is also pushing India to engage in a potential thaw with China. I say potential because the thaw process has just begun. It'll be a long process, and I think that it'll be also a difficult process given China's hegemonic ambitions in Asia, given the underlying Sino-Indian strategic rivalry. All said, India's effort to pursue a balanced foreign policy approach will certainly get a small boost or a significant boost from its efforts to mend fences with China. And similarly, China is facing long-term structural constraints at home, including a deepening demographic crisis, stalling economic growth, slowing productivity, but also it's facing a Western pushback against its geopolitical ambitions. So for China, too, better relations with India will help to advance its own larger geopolitical objectives.
As always, Mr. Chelani, thank you so much for joining us with your insights on NDTV World.
Thank you.
In other news, well, India favors greater financial integration among the member countries of the BRICS grouping. This is what Prime Minister Modi has declared at the 16th BRICS meeting in Kazan. He placed India's uncompromising position on international terrorism at the plenary session of the BRICS summit that blamed Israel for unprecedented escalation of violence in the Gaza Strip and expressed alarm over the situation in Lebanon. In fact, Prime Minister Modi urged more countries to join India in doing trade in local currencies or locally developed payment mechanisms. And the plan to conduct trade in local currencies away from the powerful US dollar has gained support, especially in the backdrop of the Russian military campaign in Ukraine that invited Western sanctions against Russia. We have reactions from Prime Minister Modi lined up for you. Listen in.
इस वर्ष ब्रिक्स के अंदर WTO रिफॉर्म्स, ट्रेड फैसिलिटेशन इन एग्रीकल्चर, रेजिलियंट सप्लाई चेन्स, ई-कॉमर्स और स्पेशल इकोनॉमिक जोन को लेकर जो सहमति बनी है उससे हमारे आर्थिक सहयोग को बल मिलेगा। क्लाइमेट चेंज हमारी साझी प्राथमिकता का विषय रहा है। रूस की अध्यक्षता में ब्रिक्स ओपन कार्बन मार्केट पार्टनरशिप के लिए बनी सहमति का स्वागत करता है। ब्रिक्स देशों के बीच फाइनेंशियल इंटीग्रेशन बढ़ाने के लिए प्रयासों का हम स्वागत करते हैं। भारत ब्रिक्स के अंतर्गत सहयोग बढ़ाने के लिए पूरी तरह से प्रतिबद्ध है। हमारी विविधता और मल्टीपोलैरिटी में हमारा दृढ़ विश्वास हमारी ताकत है। हमारी यही ताकत और मानवता में साझा विश्वास हमारी भावी पीढ़ी के समृद्ध और सशक्त भविष्य को सार्थक रूप देने में सहयोग होगा।
And in the season of global summitry, it's easy to underestimate the importance of the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz's visit to India this week. But the German Chancellor will pay a 3-day visit to India starting today to hold wide-ranging talks with our Prime Minister with a focus on boosting bilateral strategic ties, including in the areas of defence, trade and clean energy. Mr. Scholz has travelled to India twice last year for a bilateral state visit in February and to attend the G20 Leaders Summit in September. But the Prime Minister and the Chancellor will now co-chair the 7th Intergovernmental Consultations tomorrow, and he has a packed schedule while he's in India for 3 days. Meanwhile, let's turn our attention now to the neighbourhood. Well, Bangladesh is witnessing renewed tensions after hundreds of protesters stormed the president's residence in Dhaka. This was on Tuesday night, demanding the removal of President Mohammad Shahabuddin for lying about deposed Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's resignation in August. So why have these protests started once again? Well, the Bangladeshi president, he announced that his one-time ally had quit on the day she fled Bangladesh for India, paving the way for the caretaker administration. However, things actually changed last week when he told the local media that he had not actually seen a written letter from Hasina to that effect, raising the prospect that her resignation was unlawful. But these renewed protests have come months after the political crisis in August ended Sheikh Hasina's 16-year reign and prompted her to flee to India. Well, news and updates continue in a moment right after this very short break. Don't go anywhere.
NDTV proudly upholds its legacy of trust and credibility. According to the prestigious Reuters Institute's Digital News Report 2024, NDTV is the top-most news platform in the country. Number 1 in both online and offline reach in India. Beating all its competition, NDTV stands for trust.
तालियों के साथ हम स्वागत करेंगे आदरणीय मोदी जी का। छत्रपति शिवाजी महाराज की।
घोषणा आणि जनतेचे पैसे लुटणं.
कट कमिशन आणि करप्शनला आमच्याकडे थारा नाही. त्यांचा परिवारवाद आमचा महाराष्ट्रवाद.
महाराष्ट्रामध्ये 1,75,000 जागा रिक्त आहेत. मग का भरत नाही? राज्याची जनतेच्या घमाच्या पैशाची तिजोरी लुटण्यासाठी हे सरकार आहे.
पूर्वीच्या सरकारच्या काळामध्ये निधी देताना त्यांना असं वाटायचं की त्यांच्याच खिशातले पैसे चालले. शेतकऱ्यांना मोफत वीज देण्याचं काम आपल्या सरकारने सुरू केलं.
I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World and address the summit.
It was the grand launch of NDTV World by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. NDTV World, as he laid out his vision for the India century at the NDTV World Summit.
ऐसी सदी जिसमें भारत के प्रयासों से दुनिया में स्थिरता आए.
In the presence of those who are shaping our future.
मेरी तरफ से आपको ढेर सारी शुभकामनाएं हैं.
NDTV World, your new home for global news is here. Stay informed and entertained with the new and updated NDTV News app. You can watch all our channels live, listen to podcasts, read breaking and exclusive news from around the world and more. Download the NDTV app today and get access to the best journalism and storytelling on your smartphone or tablet. The NDTV app. News that matters to you.
New day, new show, a new experience.
Start your day with the news, not views.
We bring you stories that matter
and impact your life.
News that informs and keeps you ahead.
From Maximum City, Mumbai,
to the seat of power, Delhi,
NDTV brings you the best breakfast show.
breakfast news on NDTV, 8 a.m. every day.
NDTV proudly presents NDTV World Summit 2024, the India Century. I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's inaugural session at the NDTV Summit outlined his vision for the India Century, driven by aspirational India.
हमारा प्रयास होगा
Welcome back. Let's get you a quick update from Canada now. Well, the country has introduced stricter hiring regulations for temporary foreign workers, making it more difficult for them to secure employment and establish residency in the country now. The Temporary Foreign Worker Program has been amended to promote equitable labour market conditions and reduce reliance on foreign workers. This program allows Canadian employers to recruit foreign workers for temporary roles when suitable Canadian candidates are unavailable. But in a latest post on X, Justin Trudeau has said, "We're going to have fewer temporary foreign workers in India. We're bringing in stricter rules for companies to prove why they can't hire Canadian workers first." Meanwhile, Justin Trudeau is being pressured to resign by backbench MPs within his own party. In fact, disgruntled members of Liberal Party have given the Canadian leader a deadline of the 28th of October to step down before his likely electoral drubbing. In fact, disgruntled MPs of Canada's Liberal Party have given Justin Trudeau an ultimatum: decide early next week if you want to stay on as leader or face the prospects of a caucus revolt. The Prime Minister met with Liberal lawmakers in a closed-door caucus meeting where 20 MPs, none of them cabinet members, called on their leader to resign before a likely electoral drubbing in the next election. In fact, 24 lawmakers also signed a letter calling on Justin Trudeau to make his decision by the end of this month, in another 4 days on the 28th, but failed to give any clear consequence. I must inform you that there are 153 Liberal members of Parliament suggesting the mutiny still lacks widespread support. Although questions over Trudeau's political future are mounting, no alternative leader for the party has stepped forward to oppose him. But this, as polls suggest, Justin Trudeau's popularity has plummeted. Let's turn our attention now to Turkey, where 4 people were killed and 14 others wounded in an attack on the headquarters of a top Turkish defense firm near Ankara. This is what Turkish officials have said. Meanwhile, the president has reacted and said that he was actually holding talks in Russia with Putin at the time. He confirmed the toll and condemned what he said was a terrorist attack at a state-run Turkish aerospace industry. In other news, my colleague Mohammad Ghazali caught up with an Indian origin peer of the House of Lords, Lord Rami Ranger. They spoke about the role of India as far as in the backdrop of the emergence of global conflicts is concerned, and much more, including the LAC. Listen in to a snippet.
Of the recent developments I want your comments upon is like the India-China LAC disengagement. One of our key neighbors, India is trying to establish a kind of peace process with them right now to avoid all kind of disagreements, disputes. How do you see this progress?
First of all, we have to look at the history of India. India has never invaded any country. India is a peace-loving country. We love, our word is Vasudeva Kutumbakam. So we believe in one village. We want to live in peaceful existence. So India's strength is the guarantee of peace for India. So therefore, if you see the dragon is agreed to disengage, that just shows that India is not that of 1962, which can be, taken over with impunity. So the Prime Minister of this country has given India a fighting chance with the latest technology, defense equipment, the best plane in the world, best guns in the world. Our soldiers are now fully equipped, and that is the guarantee. If you want peace, you have to have the strength to defend your peace. So I salute the current leadership for giving our armed forces a chance so that we can defend our way of life, our beautiful civilization. We are a very old civilization. We were ahead of in the world before. Unfortunately, we were not united. One by one, we were captured for 1,000 years. Systematically, invaders tried to destroy us, our civilization. Yet we remained where we are. We have a second chance today. If we lose again, due to our disunity, we may not get a second chance again. So therefore, it's a very, very important lesson to the next generation that we must remain united. All these religious differences should be put behind. And because if religion had the panacea, the strength, then Pakistan would be paradise by now. So the common values, common interest give us the way forward. In India, there are maximum religion, maximum races, maximum culture. They're living together for centuries because of the common values and common interest. Therefore, the religion should be kept in your heart for your peace of mind. But India unity is at the top. You can follow any religion, but never compromise the unity of India. That is my message to your viewers, that we are very fortunate. You just have to look at 2,000-old a temple to see how ahead we were. How did they made those marvels without the modern equipment, without the latest technology? But we did, because this is why we will go back to our glory. Every blue chip company is now run by Indian. It is no miracle. Our values make us what we are.
Just two questions, sir. One regarding the conflict going around in Russia, Ukraine, and the West Asia is also on fire right now. And many experts, be it foreign experts or our local experts, they're all claiming perhaps India is in a position to provide a platform for peace building or kind of engage those stakeholders, bring them on a common table. First about Russia, Ukraine, and if you can also deliberate upon whether India is in a position to also bring the Israeli, Palestinian, or the Lebanese leaders also on a single table.
The world has to understand India is the only power which is respected by Russia and America. India has made its name as an impartial peace broker. So therefore, they should leverage India's standing. First of all, they should give India a place in Security Council. They have to use India to the benefit of world peace. Indian leadership is a very pragmatic leadership. They are respected, and they can really, because there is no solution. If war could bring peace or prosperity, then let's go for war and make more prosperity. Wars can never bring peace. Therefore, it's better we sit down. We are civilized people. We sit down and have an impartial country like India to broker peace between the two rival factions. And I think India is the best place to do all that. But it will only happen if the country like America, especially China, allow India to have a seat in the Security Council. That will be a force for good.
Okay, last question about the Punjabi diaspora. Nothing is complete without them. You representing one in UK. What's your message, not only just to Indians here, but to diaspora back there?
My message to my Punjabi diaspora is very important. You are very special because you are in a border state. What matters is how you behave. Because during the 65-70 war, you can understand the Punjabis played a very important role supplying food to the armed forces. And most of the armed forces also come from Punjab and Haryana and neighboring countries. So therefore, we have a history of defending our motherland. and therefore we must continue to stand for what has made us the best in the world, that we enjoy hard, we work hard, we are patriotic.
Thanks for talking to us, sir.
Thank you.
Well, to the US now, where Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris has slammed her Republican rival Donald Trump as unfit to serve in the White House at a Pennsylvania town hall she's just concluded. In fact, her appearance on CNN's town hall over the course of the evening, she avoided giving direct answers to several questions, calling Donald Trump's plan to build a border wall stupid, for example, but then declining to commit to not building any more wall herself. Instead, seeking to define her opponent as dangerous. Lots to unpack in that interview. We'll keep tracking the latest developments and the key analysis for you. Thank you for investing your time and watching this edition of The World 24/7. We'll keep tracking the latest developments for you as always. Do stay tuned.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
India's IT capital is always buzz. It's literally a city that never sleeps. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
NDTV proudly upholds its legacy of trust and credibility. According to the prestigious Reuters Institute's Digital News Report 2024, NDTV is the top-most news platform in the country. Number 1 in both online and offline reach in India, beating all its competition. NDTV